This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, which is more effective, sending a video or reading a presentation? This is a really good conversation. I get this one a lot. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jeff Gamble. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a background, traditional business. We own a holistic health company. We own a real estate company. I'm also an affiliate marketer and network marketer and a speaker, trainer, and coach. So let's get right into this. If you've been discouraged, depressed, frustrated, mad, upset, ready to give up, throw in the towel, I know exactly how you feel. I felt that way too. And I found maybe the answer. And today's training is probably one of those big wake up calls and answers. So let's get right into it. Sending a video. Now, sending a video really doesn't require a lot of skill, right? I mean, anybody can send a video. So it's a great sale on the front end. Also, it doesn't take any training to send a video. Here's the link, send the video. How much experience does it take? It really doesn't take any experience. So you can get people doing it right away. It's flashy and nice. It's like, look, you don't even have to say anything, but you do have to say something to get them to watch it, which is interesting. We'll talk about that here in a minute. So number one, is sending a video pretty easy? Yes. Okay, so let's talk about reading a presentation. What does reading a presentation have in common? Well, there's really no skill to reading a presentation. I mean, other than the fact that you have to read through it. There's really no training. If I hand somebody and say, this is exactly what I say, read this, the training is kind of the same. Here's the link. Here's exactly what we say. That's kind of the same. How much experience does it take? It doesn't take any experience to hand somebody the information. So far, they're pretty much the same until we get to this. What do the studies show? Well, there have been studies done on what converts the most people. Webinars, which are videos, webinars convert somewhere between 5 to 8% of the people, 5 to 8% of the people. So if you could get 100 people to watch a webinar, you're only going to convert 5 to 8 of them. Landing pages are going to convert people at 2 to 5%. So if you get 100 people to go to the landing page and actually click on something and open it, you will convert 2 to 5 of the 100. Look at this, sales calls. Sales calls where somebody reads a presentation, converts 30 to 50%, depending on how good you get at it, depending on when you catch people and all that. But even the worst person doing a sales call will beat the video. That's the statistics. I didn't run those statistics. Those statistics were run by MSN and MSBC and, Business Weekly and those type of people. That's where that information came from. And you can look it up yourself if you want to. And I'm sure every time you look it up, it's going to be the numbers will be a little bit different. But one thing that stays in common is the sales calls beat the crap out of everything else if you can get people on the phone. So why the big push for videos? And there's 3 basic reasons why. The first reason why is because it sounds so easy. Oh my gosh, all you have to do is just send out videos and look at this person who made this amount of money. Look at this person who made this amount of money. Look at this person who drives this car. And look at this person who flew in a plane one time. And look at this person who's traveled around the world. And look at this person. So all they do is they kind of link it to, here's what's going to happen if you do this. It's easy. And people are like, yeah, great. The get rich quick kind of mentality comes in right there. And they're like, shoot, all I have to do is send this video. Man, I'm going to get hundreds of people. I'm going to tell all my friends, you got to go watch this video. Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Second reason for the big push, and I'm talking about the whole industry pushes this, is compliance. What does that mean? Because there are a lot of people out there who are inflating or who are fluffing or who are lying about what's going on. And sometimes it's not even on purpose. It's an accident. It's somebody who's new, who cross-referenced Facebook with Instagram, with TikTok, and all of a sudden they get into this product company and they're like, well, I think so-and-so said, this cures dirt from growing old and it'll make your garage door go up and down faster and your gas mileage better and your dog will bark louder and your lights. I mean, it's just completely frivolous, like a lie. But they don't, like, they're just repeating maybe some things that they heard and they're excited and they don't know. So for compliance reasons, I understand the video. I do. But the third reason's really interesting because I tracked this back. Where did the videos come from? The videos didn't come from the internet. That's not when it was created. It didn't come from necessarily websites. It didn't come from the invention of the, the internet, the World Wide Web. If you go back before that, there were DVDs. If you go back before DVDs, there were VCR tapes. If you go back before VCR tapes, there were cassette tapes. Here's where it gets really interesting. So in the 80s, was when they kind of popped up. In the 80s, what was happening is people were leaving companies and transferring to other companies. So when that happened and people were transferring, you would have this flux of people move from one company to another. So they went to the leaders and said, now that we have this recording equipment that's inexpensive, right? Because recording equipment in the 60s and 70s was expensive, but all of a sudden they had the little cassette tape players. You guys probably had the one that's like, it looked like kind of a large black brick, and it had the tape that you put in and the speaker was on top. They were really cool. They have the ability to record a presentation. So what they did is they took the #1 person in the company and we said, look, we can record your presentation. And now everybody can hear your presentation because you're the best and you're the highest converting. Nobody knows who the hell you are if you're standing up, but you're the best. And then we can just tell people, listen to the best. And they put it on tape and they handed it out. Well, what happened was they tested it. Watch this. They tested it with the guy who was making the most money. Who is he going to know? He's going to know other people who have money. He pulls up in his yellow Ferrari to the country club to play golf, and he gets out, and the person who's going to park, the valet who's going to park his car, sees him, is like, oh man, nice car, that's amazing, like, what do you do? Well, it just so happens that I have this cassette tape. Hey, you got a cassette player? Yeah, here's what I do. And he hands it out and he plays golf and he comes back and he gets his car and he tips the same guy. And then he drives home, and all of a sudden, this guy at the country club just heard the tape and got in. Was it because of the tape or was it because of the Ferrari? Good question, right? From there, he goes out to dinner. Where does he go to dinner? He goes to some nice restaurant, and, he's got money. He shows up in a nice car. He has a nice watch on. Sometimes people don't pick this stuff up, designer clothes. And I'm not saying that everybody dresses like this, and I'm not saying everybody drives those kind of cars. But back then, that's where these cassette tape things and all this came from. He's at a restaurant, or she, and somebody's like, wow, that's a really nice watch, and they get into a conversation. He's like, hey, are you open to making more money? And like, yeah, maybe. He's like, oh, okay, here's this cassette tape. And it works again. He does this about 10 times and comes back and says, this is the greatest thing ever, because somebody in that position knows how much work goes into doing these presentations. Guys, it's work. I'm not kidding around. Like, it's work to be able to read the presentation. And I'll get to why it's so important here in a second, but it's work. And if you've already built really big and now switch companies and you're bringing over loads of people, you still want to set the example, right? What's an easier example? Being on the phone, actually pitching the next person, reading through, expelling the energy, or just handing somebody a tape? Handing somebody a tape is so much easier. I get that. But here's the problem. If he's a 10 in income and he hands it out to a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and he's a 10, he has, or she, or couple, has influence over all these other people, right? So I'm handing the cassette tape kind of down the scale of income, and that person's like, wow, great. And he got really excited, or she, and then they go out and they sell the organization. They're like, oh my gosh, we found the #1 thing, and all you have to do is hand out these tapes. They were cassette tapes initially. Just hand out this cassette tape. There's this great presentation on it, and they sold it and sold it and sold it. And I'll get to that here in a minute. And that first level, right, the top level, the 10s, handed it out to their organization, which were 9s, who handed out to their organizations, which were 8s and 7s and 6s. But watch this. When it gets to like 6 to 5, All of a sudden, the 6s and 5s, they don't have a downline already built or a team that they brought in. They're kind of newbies. Now, all of a sudden, the newbie is handing out the tape to the newbie, and it's not working the same way. Why? No influence. There's no influence there. So now, all of a sudden, well, that's where three-way calls come in. Okay, so we went from an independent, I do my own thing, I'm building my own business, I show up to the weekly meeting, but now all of a sudden, there's three-way calls. So now it's a people-dependent business where I have to rely on somebody else to close every single person that I've handed something to, which slows that process down incredibly. It slows it down. And I've seen organizations on both sides. The fourth thing, which is an invisible reason. Here's the invisible reason. Here's one of the big reasons why they've always handed stuff out and had videos. Do you know how much money was made off of those cassette tapes that turned into VCR tapes, that turned into DVDs, that turned into websites that you have to buy to be able to hand out your video? Do you know how much money is involved in that? There's more, watch this, there is more money in the cassette tapes, the VCR tapes, the DVDs, and the websites than all the other product line in network marketing combined. Like, it's the most profitable thing, bar none, across the board. So then what happened was the leadership started getting paid off of all these cassette tapes and DVDs and magazines and VCR tapes and websites. And if you don't think that's true, I actually have the original PowerPoints of several companies that show the split and the breakdown of the leadership getting paid off of all of this. It's true. So why do they market handing out the video? I wonder why. The fifth is, let's talk about the benefits of actually reading a presentation. So if you have to read a presentation to somebody, here's what you get that's the most valuable thing of the whole process. It's called feedback. You're able to kind of gauge what's working and what's not. You're able to see along the path where somebody's eyes and where their questions and where their body language is at. So that way you have the ability to pick up on that. The reason the people who old school that had to read presentations to everybody are usually the ones up front speaking at the events, right? They're always every single person that you absolutely admire in the industry knows how to do a presentation. Isn't that weird? They're also usually the highest paid people in the business. So that's another benefit. But the main benefit is the feedback you get when you actually go out and talk to people and what it does to the whole organization. Because the whole organization starts getting this feeling of what's going on and how to answer, and hey, this is how somebody reacted to this. Oh, well, I kind of emphasized this. And this is a pre-written presentation, right? At word for word, you're just reading it to them. This isn't, it used to be flipbook style where everybody kind of had their own thing that they said on each page and it was just all over the place. But when you're reading something that's pre-done, the nice thing is talk about duplication. I can print it and hand it to the next person. They can print it and hand it to the next person. They can print it and hand it to the next person, and on and on and on. And now, this is the reason a trifold brochure was so great, because you could just hand it to the next person, the next person, the next person. Now everything's online. So if you want to send somebody something, you have to physically write it out and then text it to them, which is a lot of what I do. So if you like this training, if you got something out of it, here's what I'm going to suggest. Join our community. Stuff like this is what we talk about. I'm going to kind of break things down, and I'm going to remove all of the icing and BS and crap and get right down to why things work the way they work and what you're trying to accomplish. And I'm not saying anything that, like, I'm not trying to bash or beat up anybody. That's just what I see. I've been trained by one of the top people ever in the industry, a guy who he's actually made, him and his family, because he's passed now, but before he passed away, he actually earned $460 million in commissions from a direct sales company. 460 million, which means he's made more money personally into his bank account from his direct sales network marketing company than most companies ever do in our industry. So he was the guy, right? So that's who I originally learned from. I had three really, maybe four really, really strong mentors in the industry, and they all kind of taught a little bit different stuff, but they all had things in common. And that's basically what I've done is I've pulled the stuff that's in common, went to all the events, read all the books, listened to the seminars, and started breaking this information down. And I kept asking the question, why this? Why does this work? How does this work? That's what we go over in our community. So if you go over to joinmyleadershipnetwork.com and you register, I'm going to go ahead and get you into our Facebook group so that way you can exponentially learn. We have a bunch of different coaching products. We have a bunch of different certification products. It's kind of up to you what you want to do from there. But we appreciate everybody. And to wrap it up, the best trained team wins. So let's lock arms and achieve some goals and dreams. Thank you guys so much.